Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The White House recently unveiled the biggest offshore wind project in the United States. Is wind power really that clean and green? A famous Hollywood actor apologized to China for his comment. What offended China this time? Democrats are using various means to press Senator Kyrsten Sinema to drop her support on the filibuster. Will she buckle? There are more problems found with New Hampshire's voting machines, and it's not limited to the town of Windham. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. The White House, along with the Defense Department and the California government, announced preliminary plans Tuesday to develop two giant wind energy farms off the coast of California. Sites off of Morro Bay in Central California and the city of Eureka in Northern California could potentially produce up to 4.6 gigawatts of wind power. How much is 4.6 gigawatts of electricity? That's slightly more than the now decommissioned San Onofre nuclear plant produced. The two wind farms are expected to provide power to about 1.6 million homes over the next decade. In March, Biden set his offshore wind ambitions to deploy 30 gigawatts by 2030. Earlier this month, the Biden administration gave the green light for the first major offshore wind project to provide 800 megawatts of power off the coast of Massachusetts. The Tuesday announcement is seen as the second major move to meet the aggressive target for carbon-free power. However, is wind energy really as clean and green as governments claim it to be? It's true that unlike coal, natural gas, or oil, electricity generated from wind doesn't result in greenhouse gas emissions. It's also true that wind energy is completely renewable, as wind never runs out. As opposed to fossil fuels, we don't have a supply issue here for the future, despite the fact you can't ever solely rely on wind for your power, as it isn't always available. While it's fair to say that wind itself is clean, the construction of those gigantic wind turbines is not environmentally friendly. This is something leftist environments will never talk about. Today we'll tell you the true cost of generating green and clean wind energy. Among the top 10 wind turbine manufacturers in the world in 2020, China occupies 6 spots and accounts for nearly half of the global capacity. General Electric, the only US company on the list, is ranked number 4. So what does this mean? Okay, let me give you an example. 33 turbine generators destined for Scotland were made in one of the most environmentally unfriendly countries, China. Chinese farmers in the Baotao region of Inner Mongolia had their wheat and cornfields destroyed. The lands were turned into giant mining lakes of bubbling toxic muck as they dug for metals necessary to make the turbines. In Los Lomas, a rural area of South Texas, French energy giant Engie is working on a large-scale wind energy project for Microsoft. Microsoft is set to achieve 100% renewable energy by the year 2025. However, shipping records show that wind turbines at Los Lomas were supplied by Goldwind, the third largest manufacturer for wind energy in the world. Goldwind is partly owned by the C.C.P. and is located in Xinjiang, the region where Beijing detains at least 1 million Uyghur Muslims who are subjected to communist indoctrination, forced labor, and torture. Last year, Goldwind signed a deal with the powerful Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, XPCC. XPCC is a quasi-military organization that runs huge parts of Xinjiang's economy. The Trump administration had imposed sanctions on XPCC for human rights violation. Experts say the connection alone that Goldwind is based in Xinjiang and has ties with the C.C.P. are enough to turn international companies away. Lawyer Olga Torres, who specializes in trade and national security, said, "If someone is coming to me and saying, 'I'm importing something from the region of Xinjiang,' I'm telling them you should review your supply chain and assess potential risks. And we need to feel comfortable that you don't have forced labor in your supply chain. If you don't do these basic things, you're being irresponsible." Now, back to the discussion of the environmental impact. The demand for neodymium, a rare earth chemical element, soared due to the demand for wind turbines around the world. The grim reality is this frenzied demand for the rare metal resulted in more than 7 million tons of toxic waste being dumped every year into a 6-mile wide man-made lake in Baotou, China. Some of the waste is also radioactive. This lake has become so large and so toxic that it is now jeopardizing the irrigation system the Chinese farmers rely upon to water their land and livestock. But, of course, the CCP is indifferent to this. Leftist environmentalists pretend they don't know about it either. Jamie Choi, an exporter from Greenpeace China, said, "There's not one step of the rare earth mining process that's not disastrous for the environment. Ores are being extracted by pumping acid into the ground, and then they're processed using more acids and chemicals. The UK has over 3,000 turbines, all of which require destroying natural landscapes in order to build service roads. The roads were used to deliver 3 million pounds of concrete for each turbine foundation. Besides that, wind turbines look incredibly dull and ugly, ruining the beautiful landscape." While leftists crack down on oil, coal, and nuclear power for their negative impact on the environment, they ignore the enormous environmental damage caused by the construction of wind turbines. A.K. Tiwari, a worker in the wind turbine industry, said, "Many times I used to wonder at the huge amount of energy being consumed for manufacturing, transportation, and installation of these monsters. All this because I had my doubts whether it produces at least the same amount of energy during its lifetime. It's a great question, and every wind power project should have to answer it." Talking about China, a Hollywood actor and former wrestling star publicly apologized to the Chinese for calling Taiwan a country during a promotional interview for his newest film, Fast and the Furious 9. John Cena is probably most well known as the champion wrestler in the WWE before he joined the Hollywood ranks. In an interview prior to F9's international release, he said, "Taiwan is the first country in the world that will screen Fast and Furious 9, and that was what prompted the wrath of the Chinese Communist Party." On Monday, the CCP state-run press, Global Times, posted a screenshot of the interview on Chinese social media Weibo and asserted the self-ruled Taiwan is a province of China. Now, to be clear, Taiwan is an independent country with its own military, democratically elected government, and constitution, while the CCP has been claiming the island as its own. In recent years, Beijing's threatened to unify Taiwan by force if necessary. Within a day of China's backlash, Cena posted the following video right here.
所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情就人给我很多资讯 information，所以很多采访，很多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国跟中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解，我很爱，很尊重中国跟中国人。
Cena's apology came following the film's $136 million weekend debut in China. China has the world's largest movie market, but it isn't open to all movies. Any filmmaker wanting to release a movie in the communist-governed land must pass strict censorship rules. The rules include the movie's story, footage, music, actors, directors, and basically all crew members cannot oppose the CCP's propaganda. The Best Picture winner of the 93rd Academy Awards, Nomadland, was censored in China because the movie's Chinese-born director, Chloe Zhao, said in 2013 that her home country was a place where there are lies everywhere as she grew up. Some Hollywood celebrities are banned from China for their stances on politically sensitive subjects, such as the suppression of Tibet by the communist regime. Brad Pitt, Richard Gere, Harrison Ford, and Sharon Stone are on the CCP's blacklist for this reason. Standing with the CCP is extremely unpopular today. Hopefully, John Cena has already realized this in the aftermath of his apology, with many calling him out for bowing to the CCP. Now, before we continue, if you like our program, please hit that like button and subscribe. It'll force the algorithm to share this video to potentially thousands of people. And today, I have the pleasure of toasting to another amazing eye-opener supporter, Gregory. Gregory was kind enough to send me a picture of himself enjoying a Hershey's chocolate caramel creamer coffee in his mug that matters. Okay, so everyone, let's grab our mugs and allow me to thank Gregory. Your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. This past weekend, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer enjoyed her time with a group of friends at a bar, violating her own rules. This photo was posted on Facebook Saturday. Whitmer's Chief Operating Officer, Tricia Foster, who was caught violating the state's traveling restrictions last month, was also at the event. Whitmer was forced to apologize as her capacity order on restaurants clearly says consumption of food or beverages is permitted only in a designated dining area where patrons are seated. Groups of patrons are separated by at least 6 feet. No more than 6 patrons are seated together. Ted Goodman, spokesman for the Michigan Republican Party, said this is yet another example of Whitmer and her staff's violating the state's coronavirus restrictions while expecting everyone else to follow them. In April, the governor was caught taking a private jet to Florida to allegedly visit her sick father while she demanded state residents not to travel for spring break. Michigan is one of those Democratic states that still has strict lockdowns in place. Children are not back in school. Restaurants that are open cannot exceed 25% of normal seating capacity. Customers and staff have to still wear masks and sit 6 feet apart. The Michigan Freedom Fund called on Whitmer to immediately lift all orders last week, and the governor continued to ignore such requests. Virginia is another blue state that remains under coronavirus restrictions. Governor Ralph Northam declared a state emergency in March 2020, which is still in place. Even though the CDC eased its mask guideline earlier this month, the Virginia government website as of Tuesday still read, all Virginians must continue to comply with the statewide face covering requirement, continue teleworking if possible, and maintain 6 feet of physical distance when outside of home. Virginia GOP nominee for governor Glenn Youngkin and other Republican candidates issued a statement Monday calling Northam to end the state emergency. As the 2022 gubernatorial elections approach, do Whitmer and Northam believe they have a chance to win with their devastating COVID-19 restrictions? Red states are taking the lead on another front regarding the pandemic. On Monday, Alabama became the latest state banning businesses from requiring COVID-19 vaccination proof for customers. The trend to bar vaccine passports is strong in southern and Midwest states run by Republicans. Earlier this month, Florida signed the most restrictive legislation prohibiting businesses, schools, and governments from requiring anyone to show proof of vaccination. Arizona, Texas, South Dakota, Idaho, Montana, and Utah have laws or executive orders banning government entities from requiring vaccine passports. A number of other red states are in the process of passing similar legislation or voice support for not participating in vaccine passport programs. Since the beginning, the idea of requiring citizens to show proof of vaccination using a passport has attracted enormous criticism, not limited to conservatives. Many are arguing such a practice creates different classes of citizens and discriminates against people who choose not to have their vaccine for various reasons. Vaccination records documented through digital software imposes great risk to privacy and individual liberty. Now, when life and the economy are returning to normal, to require proof of vaccination would restrict the free flow of commerce and have adversarial impacts on the recovery. Although Democrat-controlled states are not considering issuing a ban of vaccine passports, no further development on requiring such passports have been heard either. Health and Human Services has announced California won't require an official vaccine passport for residents when it lifts social distancing requirements and capacity limits on June 15th. Yesterday evening, the Senate passed an amendment presented by Senator Rand Paul, which bans the use of American taxpayer dollars to fund gain-of-function research in China.
We may never know whether the pandemic arose from the lab in Wuhan, but we do know that so far no intermediate animal host has been discovered. But I think gain-of-function research, where we take a deadly virus, sometimes much more deadly than COVID, and then we increase its transmissibility to mammals, is wrong. In 2014, NIH stopped all of this research. I'm using the same definition to say any gain-of-function research should not be funded in China with U.S. taxpayer dollars, and I recommend a yes vote. Thank you.
Gain-of-function enhances a virus's ability to infect different species and to increase its deadly impact. These experiments are extremely dangerous. Those deadly science-enhanced viruses can and do escape into the community where they infect and kill people. What's more, the line of research can also be used for biological warfare. 2 weeks ago, Rand Paul pressed Dr. Anthony Fauci over National Institutes of Health's NIH funding of the Wuhan Institute of Virology lab or coronavirus gain-of-function research. Although Dr. Fauci repeatedly denied the allegations, there's ample evidence that NIH and NIAID, under Fauci's direction, funded gain-of-function research at the lab for years. Some of the funds went directly to Shi-Cheng Li, the infamous Batwoman virologist. Back in Congress, 2 Democratic senators from Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema and Mark Kelly, were the topic of a resolution passed by the Arizona Democratic Party during the weekend. Arizona Democrats are pressing Sinema and Kelly to junk filibuster. The state's Democratic Party chair, Raquel Teran, said she appreciates the 2 senators' desire to work with Republicans, but they need to make sure they get Joe Biden's agenda passed. This sounds like a one-party rule to me. In April, Sinema defended the filibuster. She said that it's senators' behavior, not Senate rules like the filibuster, that should be changed. Since then, the pressure on Sinema has ramped up. A Twitter user even exploited the death of the senator's former intern to call on her to drop the support. Last week, during a rally in downtown Phoenix, progressives urged the 2 senators to end the filibuster. But Sinema isn't buckling under the pressure. She said in a recent interview, "I don't bend to pressure from either party, and I just stay focused on what I think is right and delivering for Arizonans." Kelly, on the other hand, hasn't taken a stand on the matter. In April, he said he'll make a decision not what's in the best interest of the party, but what's in the best interest of Arizona and the country. Kelly did express he prefers to move legislation through the Senate by earning the support of Senate Republicans. He said, "Our country's better served when we can do things in a bipartisan way." In New Hampshire, in addition to the malfunction of Windham's voting machines, machines from other towns were found with bizarre date and time stamps. 2 towns, Londonderry and Amherst, reset one of their machines and started counting ballots on October 17th and 23rd, 11 and 17 days before the election. Several other machines in Londonderry were set to 0 around 11 p.m., 4 hours after polls closed and when all ballots should have already been entered into the machines. In Windham, the newest machines, in fact, miscounted the most ballots. This machine happens to be the one that has gone the longest without being recalibrated. Audit investigations continue to see what could possibly cause the difference among the machines. In any case, the Windham machines have serious problems. After the audit is over, will New Hampshire examine machines from all other towns as well? Will the state acquire new machines or switch to hand counting votes? And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me on the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, and Parler. Now, don't forget, please sign up to that email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.